Are you toiling away at life, wasting your time, trying to somehow manufacture a righteousness that is pleasing to the Lord? Are you striving to show yourself good enough so that He'll pour out His favor upon you? Well, I hope not, because if you are, your efforts are misguided. If you're trying to earn, work, or otherwise, frankly, weasel your way into God's good graces, like most of us have been taught to do, you've only set yourself up for heartbreak and frustration. And chances are you've already discovered this. What you probably don't know yet is why or what the problem is. Well, stick with me for the next 10 minutes and I'll show you. I'm Xavier Lamont, and this is the Ecclesian. Trying to be good enough for God is prioritizing the appearance of righteousness over the reality of a truly personal relationship with Him. In much the same way that many New Agers and naturalists focus more on creation than the Creator. God does desire righteous people, but it's not a righteousness that can ever be attained through self-effort or determination. It's not an imposed moral standard, and it cannot be forced. And despite what you may think, the Lord's focus is not on your behavior. Now, I'm not saying that He doesn't see it, and I'm not saying that there aren't consequences to behavior. But righteousness that is rooted in behavior, at least what appears to be righteousness, well, it is not remotely the same thing as behavior that's rooted in righteousness. The Lord's focus is righteousness, but the righteousness the Lord seeks from His people can only be achieved in us by the Holy Spirit through the renewal and transformation of our hearts and our minds. And this is what the Apostle Paul was writing about in Romans chapter 8. What passes for righteousness in so many factions of the church is more often than not a conceit and a counterfeit of the real thing. Now, to clarify, I'm not talking against church. If you've followed me for any length of time, you know what my stance is on that. But I'm speaking out against the spirit of religion that has taken hold in our country. God does desire a righteous people, but how we achieve that righteousness really matters. It is not attained through an imposed moral standard. Real righteousness originates in heaven and flows through us. It doesn't come from us. You see, millions are trading in fake currency, thinking that they're offering, acceptable divine transactions to earn the favor of the kingdom of heaven through what they do. And this results in erroneous yet very pervasive thinking that one, the Lord measures you by weighing the good that you do against the bad things that you've done, and granting His favor accordingly. And they think that that's what gets people into heaven when they die. And worse yet, number two is we think that we're somehow here to advance God's law by any means necessary, by calling sinners out, by shaming people, by political maneuvering, by, even by force. Again, by any means necessary. But Jesus didn't do that. God never did that. Even in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve still had a choice. Now, to be sure, there were God-given consequences to their choices, but people have a choice. The fact is, a lot of people today are not standing with God where they think they are. They want to try and change the world, for good, but they have not chosen to surrender to the Holy Spirit to be transformed themselves. Now, that doesn't mean that God doesn't love them, or has disdain for them, but it does mean that there are many, too many, who poorly represent, who misrepresent Christ, and who do not bear the fruit of the Spirit. You probably know the text. But the Holy Spirit produces this kind of fruit in our lives: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Galatians 5 verses 22 and 23. Are these the things and the character aspects that are manifesting themselves in your life, flowing from the throne of heaven through you? If not, then you can be certain that you're not as aligned with God as you think you are. And that's not my opinion. Yes, just as you can identify a tree by its fruit, so you can identify people by their actions. Matthew 7 verse 20. For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light, for the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness, righteousness, and truth. Ephesians 5, verses 8 and 9. That makes it pretty clear. What fruit are you bearing? Most of us have been taught to put the proverbial cart before the horse and erroneously think that the doing is what pleases God. But the Lord's focus on our actions as His children are when these actions proceed out of who we truly are in Him and who we are becoming in Him, not what we are trying to look like or what we are attempting to do of our own accord. Any of us can fake, at least for a time, the outward appearance of someone else, but the deception doesn't hold up under pressure or scrutiny, and we call such a person who tries a poser. And in the current state the world is in, under all of the pressures that we're facing with COVID and political animosity, with nature running amok with fire and flood, and so much more. Look, it's almost understandable if you perceive these as dark and dreary times. Yet it is in the darkness that we are surrounded by. It is in that darkness that the light of Christ shines brightest. For the poser, it doesn't shine at all. And a lot of people are being exposed for the posers that they are. The Lord wants the real you to reflect the real Christ. This authenticity, when you are renewed and transformed by the Holy Spirit, it empowers you to bear the fruit of the Spirit in all circumstances, not just in those that are seemingly favorable or comfortable or when things are going your way. It is Christ in you that the world observes and will be changed by, especially in difficult circumstances. The pandemic and political events in this country and around the world are stripping away all pretense and under great pressure to reveal who you really are and where you stand with God. The bottom line is this isn't a time to be passing judgment on others. It's a time for us to be examining ourselves. Are you frustrated, upset, angry, incensed towards people? Are you itching for a fight? Are you worried, discouraged, depressed over what you see going on around you? Or are you filled with and exuding the fruit of the Spirit and being a beacon of hope and an inspiration to the world? In short, are you reacting to circumstances or are you responding to the Holy Spirit? You see, the key question isn't where is the world, where is this country headed? It's where are you headed? What is your real relationship with God? I'm not talking about how well you know the Bible or how you think, the good that you do outweighs the bad or how you might compare yourself to somebody else. Are you focused on the doing that you manage to muster, or are you focused on the being He transforms you to be? Have you surrendered to the renewing of your heart and mind through the Holy Spirit in order to bear His fruit? Or are you merely pretending, a faint shadow of who you are called to be, and an imposter of the kingdom of heaven? Just so we're clear, I'm not the one that you answer to. Each of us answers directly to God. Each of us must cultivate our own personal relationship with Jesus, the Father, and the Holy Spirit. If you don't know or you aren't sure how, that is what you need to be praying and asking the Lord to show you today. He is greater than the things you're facing, and He is the well that you need to draw from. In more ways than you can possibly imagine, your life, your family, your country, all depend on and are affected by the intimacy you cultivate with God. As His child, the kingdom of heaven will be advanced or impeded through your relationship with Him. He provided for your salvation, your adoption, your empowerment, and provision, and more while you were still separated from Him by sin. He sees you for who you will become in and through Christ, mature, sinless, made perfect. Not a poser, but a son or daughter of the Most High. You see, you are royalty, and you have a greater value and purpose than merely being a poser. God is calling you into intimate personal relationship with Him so that you can be transformed and be a conduit of salt and light to the world around you. And as you sense this, as you feel His presence, perhaps even hear His voice, let Him know that you are willing to get to know Him as He truly is. As He wants to be known, as He knows you. Open your heart. Seek after Him. Knock on His door. He is waiting to answer it. There is so much more than the half-life in Him that you've been living. So I urge you to take the next step. I'm praying for you. And if you'll leave your name down below, then I will add you to my prayer list. In any event, thanks for watching.